Welcome to this video. This is the seventh of 9 videos for Chapter 1. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Section 1.2.7, and what we're going to be doing is just translating compound statements using all 4 of the operators and multiple levels of recursion. So let's just work through some examples. This is the sort of thing that you'll get on the quiz and on the final. Give you a statement, say translate the statement into formal notation. So here's the statement: if Sarah doesn't come to the party, then we won't need the vegetarian burgers. Step 1, as always, is to identify the atomic statements. So the first is Sarah comes to the party. Now up here we have Sarah doesn't come to the party, but the N apostrophe T, again, that's a not. That's not part of the atomic statement. That's a negation operator, so we pull that out. The non-negated statement, the atomic statement, is Sarah comes to the party. We will need the vegetarian burgers, same thing. The not here is is a negation applied to the atomic statement here. Next up, let's rewrite the original sentence, but plugging in the S and the V where they are for the atomic statements they stand for. We're going to leave in the comma, and we get something like this: if not S, then not V. The two nots are easy. It's clear that the negations are negating the atomic statements, S and V. That's also clear up here. Anytime you have a not connected to the verb or an NT connected to the verb, it means that that negation is negating that atomic statement. Okay. We also have an if-then. The comma is next to the then. That's a clue that that conditional is the main operator. So these will become tildes. We're going to have a conditional. What's the antecedent? Well, it's using if by itself. So the statement immediately following if is the antecedent. So not S will be the antecedent and go on the left. So we'll have tilde S, horseshoe, tilde V. Oops. Just like that. Next up, I'll buy an Xbox 360, comma, and either a PSP or Nintendo DS. 3 atomic statements. None of these are negated. So we have I'll buy an Xbox 360, I'll buy a PSP, I'll buy a Nintendo DS. By the way, notice here we have a lot of elision. The original English, it's not I'll buy an Xbox 360 and either I'll buy a PSP or I'll buy a Nintendo DS. In most natural languages, you can leave out redundant, components that get repeated. But it's pretty clear that these are what they mean. If it meant something different, if it was someone else buying a PSP, then that would have showed up. The only time you can eliminate something in this way is when it's obvious because it's repeating something that's already there, at least in the cases we're going to be concerned with. If we rewrite, we get X, comma, so I'm leaving the comma in, and either P or N. Now, the comma is next to the and. So there's 2 operators here. There's a conjunction and then there's a disjunction. The comma is next to the conjunction, not next to the disjunction. So that's a clue that this conjunction is the main operator. One conjunct is X and then the other conjunct is this disjunction. So I'm just going to put parentheses around here to show that this is the main operator, this is one conjunct, this is the other conjunct. This is just going to be P wedge N, and this and is just going to become a dot. So we'll have X and P or N. Now there were actually 2 clues here that the conjunction was the main operator. One is the comma. The other is that the disjunction used a compound or used either or. Okay, because when you have either or, the component between the either and the or has to be one disjunct. So we couldn't have done it the other way, and you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. Suppose we didn't have either of those clues. So here's the same statement, except I got rid of the comma, and instead of either or, I just have or. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try to translate this. So same three atomic statements. And if we plug this back in, we get this, X and P or N. Now the problem is this is ambiguous. We don't know if the conjunction or the disjunction is the main operator, right? It could be that the disjunction is the main operator. The first disjunct is the conjunction X and P. The second disjunct is just the atomic statement N. The other possibility is like before, the conjunction is the main operator. First conjunct is X, second conjunct is P or N. Now these are not just differences in terms of like which one we decide we're going to call the main operator. These mean different things. Okay, it's like this arithmetic expression. Okay, this is ambiguous because it'll mean different things depending upon which of these you evaluate first. If it's 5 times 4 plus 1, then it's 5 times 4 is 20 plus 1 is 21. If it's 5 times 4 plus 1, it's 5 times 5 is 25. Okay? So this expression, 5 times 4 plus 1, is ambiguous. It can mean two different things. We don't like ambiguous expressions if we can avoid it. There's a variety of ways to avoid ambiguity. One is you could just use parentheses like this. If I put parentheses around the 4 and the 1, that tells you that you have to evaluate this first, that's 5, and then multiply that times this 5. You could also disambiguate this by just having a convention that you always evaluate some operators before other operators, or you always evaluate them left to right or right to left or whatever. But you could have a convention that would disambiguate this for you. We don't have a convention that we're going to use in this class. So for the statement operators, we're always going to use parentheses to sort of make clear, explicit what the components are and what the main operator is. Okay. But then you might say, well, which one is it? Is it this or is it this? Well, the answer is it's just ambiguous. We don't know. The original English sentence doesn't have clues to tell us. So if someone actually said this to you, or they sent you a text message that said this, what you might have to do is reply back and say, wait a minute. Do you mean that you're going to definitely buy a 360, and then in addition to that, you're going to buy one of these two? Or are you saying that you're considering two options? One option is a 360 and a PSP, and the other option is just a Nintendo DS. Right? You might have to clarify, get them to sort of add something. But as it is, this could mean either of those things. Now you might, at this point, also say, hey, that sounds like it sucks. What if on a quiz or the final something's ambiguous? We won't give you ambiguous things. So there will always be a clue. There will always be a way for you to know that there's one right answer. Okay. All right. Let's move on. The car runs well and the motorcycle runs well, but you should be careful if you take the boat out. So here are the atomic statements. C, the car runs well. M, motorcycle runs well. Y, you should be careful. B, you take the boat out. If we rewrite this, leave the comma in, we get C and M, but Y if B. I'm just going to get rid of the key here and rewrite that sentence up here. Now we know we left a comma in here, so I know this conjunction is the main operator. This will be the first conjunct, C and M. The second conjunct will be this conditional, Y if B. So I'm going to go ahead and put those groupings there. Use a parentheses, C and M, but main operator, Y if B, second conjunct. The and the but are going to be easy. Those are just going to be dots. This is going to be a conditional, so it'll be a horseshoe, but we have to figure out which of these statements is the antecedent. Is it going to be Y horseshoe B, or is it going to be B horseshoe Y? Well, let's go ahead and do the dots first to get that out of the way. That and becomes a dot, but becomes a dot. The only thing left is this. Well, it's using if, not only if. Statement following if is the antecedent. So B is the antecedent, and antecedents go on the left. So it's going to be B horseshoe Y. Okay? Let's do the next one. Either you will get a fine, or you will have to do hard time if you don't pay your taxes and you don't file an extension. Atomic statements. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite everything up here a little bit to give myself more space. These are the atomic statements, and then when I rewrite, I'm going to leave the comma in here. I get either F or H, if not T and not E. Now, comma is next to the if, so this is the main operator. It's going to be a conditional. Okay, this is one component, that's the other component. This is a disjunction, that's a conjunction. So let's go ahead and put parentheses around these two. So it's going to be this, if, that. This will be easy. This is just F wedge H, F or H. This will be easy. I've already got the knots into tildes. The and is going to become a dot. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get that. F wedge H, if, not T and not E. Now let's just do this conditional. We're going to have a horseshoe. Question is, which one of these goes on the left and which one goes on the right? It's if by itself. It's not only if. Statement following only if is the antecedent. So this will be the antecedent and is going to go over here on the right. The other statement is the consequent. So this is the consequent. It's going to go over here on the left. So we're going to have T and E, horseshoe, F or H. Okay, that's it for this video. Next up will be the end of the chapter where we'll be translating arguments into formal notation. That'll be the 8th of 9 videos, and then the 9th of 9 videos will be me working through practice quiz 1.